All right, y'all. Before we dive in, a quick heads up.
This show is raw, real, and definitely not rated PG.
We're talking about adult themes, sexual content, and the kind of stuff you probably don't want blasting through your speakers at work or around your kids.
So grab some headphones, pour your drink of choice, and get comfy.
Oh, and just so we're clear, we are not licensed therapists, counselors, or sex couches. Sex coaches,
Sex coaches.
not sex couches.
We're just a couple of people sharing our lives experiences and sexy adventures and ethical non-monogamy. So with that, pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Monogamy. I'm Adam.
And I'm Pris.
And today we're hopping in the time machine and heading back to the original sexual revolution.
Yep, before lifestyle was a lifestyle, before SDC, before 3Fun, before anybody said ethical non-monogamy.
That's right. Our guest, Sam L. Feldman, didn't just study it, he lived it. He's the author of Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances, a wild ride through the 60s and 70s, full of hookups that made headlines, hiccups that taught lessons, and happenstances that changed how people saw love.
And yes, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's his book sitting right there on our table.
That's right. That's right. Sam's stories are raw, funny, and deeply human, kind of like what happens when you first open your relationship and realize, oh, this isn't as simple as I thought it was.
So get comfy. We're talking about what the early days of sexual liberation can teach us about swinging, communication, jealousy, and connection today. So welcome, Sam.
Yes, welcome, Sam. Thank you so much for...
Thank you all. I've been looking forward to this. I'm thrilled to be here. So let's let it happen.
You know, I will tell you, I used to describe myself as a history buff, and I did a lot of reading, and you know, I didn't get to touch up so much on the sexual revolutions of the 60s and 70s, but my parents were of that era.
Yeah.
And so I was really curious, and I've had your book for a while, and I got to get through it, and it was a lot of fun. A really enjoyable book. Now we're going to dive right in. In Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances, you talk about discovering freedom before it had a label. How did people find each other back then without apps, websites, and swinger apps and swinger clubs?
That's a damn good question. And, it was happenstance. I would say a lot of it was happenstance. Back in the 60s and 70s, of course, there was no such terminology as ethical non-monogamy. So the closest to it would have been key clubs, neighborhood key clubs. That was the beginning, I would say, of the sexual revolution as far as non-monogamy. So key clubs, and then outside of that, as far as Butch and his experiences in the book, it was meetings. It was, again, happenstances and being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes they weren't the happy periods that you would hope they'd be, but there was no such thing as filling out an application or going online and talking about your kinks and trying to match up with somebody who had the same kinks. I mean, it's unimaginable. I'm 86 years old and been married 62 years to the same wonderful woman. But to, again, go out and say, what are your kinks? Let's hook up tonight. And that's it.
Yeah. So
Inconceivable.
it happened very naturally back then, as opposed to now.
Happened very,
it's very technical. It's very
There's a lot of rules.
There's a lot of rules
a lot of rules,
now.
a lot of labels, a lot of everything's been well documented now.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of references.
So you have to realize that this was, again, the beginning of the sexual revolution. So women were able to have an abortion legally.
Right.
They were able to purchase contraceptives. Up until that time, you had to be a couple, believe it or not, to purchase contraceptives. So the law was passed where anyone could purchase contraceptives. And then you had the pill. So women had the freedom now to be sexually active that they didn't have before without extremely dire consequences. Another part of that, in 1970, Reagan signed into law no-fault divorce. And a lot of women were unable to get divorces. You know, they're housewives. They had no income. So if they were involved in a very bad marriage, whatever it was, abuse, physical, mental, emotional, whatever, they couldn't get out of it because they couldn't afford to hire a lawyer. So again, no fault divorce made it easy for them without having to prove adultery or again, you know, abuse, physical or mental abuse. So those freedoms gave women the opportunity to be human,
Be human.
to
Yeah.
have their human desires. That's
Yeah.
right. And I
Wow.
want to tell you now, so if you look at my book, you read the first line of the book, it says, these stories may never happen again. And the last line says, don't let them take the joy out of sex. Then the book came out in 2003. That was before Trump was reelected. When Trump got reelected, and they took over Congress. They took over the Senate and the White House, and it's totally conservative. I don't have to tell you anything you don't know, but there's a conservative manifesto out there called Project 2025. And Project 2025 wants to take women and put them back in the kitchen
Yes.
with an apron and kids all around their feet. They want to take away the right, and they've done that, the right to have a legal abortion. They want to take away the morning after pill. You know, it's taking away those freedoms that women discovered back in the 60s and 70s. So you got to be very careful. Project 2025 also, there's something that you ought to be very concerned about because there's a provision in there that they want to ban pornography. They want to jail authors, producers like yourselves who produce pornography in their definition of pornography and jail them. You people have to be concerned. You're not going to, if this ever passed, you're not going to be able to have a program that's going to talk about,
Everything.
well, yeah, everything. I'm trying to think of glory holes. You're not going to be able to talk about
Yeah.
people actively sucking in glory holes
Yeah.
because they would throw you in jail for that. So it's very, we can laugh now,
Yeah.
but if we don't stay on top of this and fight this, it could happen. And again, women could lose their rights. So
Oh,
the
Sam, I
sexual
am.
revolution was an awakening, and we don't want to go back to the dark ages.
No, no, we don't. And I am right there with you. I have daughters. I have lots of female friends, and I am 100% agreeing with you.
Yeah.
We don't want it to go backwards. It's too much fun. It's too much freedom.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
I,
Pris is very empowered now. I mean,
yeah,
she's living her life.
yeah, like I can be as free as I want, and our daughters can be as free as they want, and that's exactly what we thrive for. And you are very right on all of that. So what back then, what were the unwritten rules, and how did folks handle things like jealousy and boundaries when no one was teaching it? Did y'all just naturally throw your men out?
So there was, again, you have rules today, but back then, you know, with a hookup, there was no dialogue as far as, well, let's look at the rule book or check the boxes off. So I can't answer that there was such a thing, but I can answer what in the book Butch says. And Butch had his rules where the L word was never mentioned. You kept the L word off the table. If you wore your wedding ring, so you're going to be honest with yourself and other people.
No cheating, no, everything was out in the open type of thing with everybody.
Yeah, you
Okay.
know, there's a difference between physical love and emotional love or
Mhm.
activity. And so the references in the book are going back to physical. They weren't emotional arrangements. They were hookups and you're just there in the moment.
And
I
so
love
the
But if you
so the L word never came in. Like there was
mm-mm.
never any real kind of emotional commitment. It was literally just kind of
Just
hit
sex.
it and quit it.
correct, however, the Butch had his rules so that if the L word raised its head, it was going to be like, let's talk about this, or let's not even talk about it. If it comes up again, Butch's rule was walk away. You have to walk away if the emotional starts to come in. It's strictly sexual encounters.
That's kind of like me.
Yeah, that is a
That's
lot like
very
you,
me
actually.
right there. I'm not emotional. I'm very technical. Let's just do what we have to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's very, very rigid, very let's get down to brass tacks. There's not a whole lot of emotion that
Nope.
passes through, and I'm the opposite. The L word can come up as much as it needs to, but I'm gonna have my fun, and I like to have the connection, and I like to put in the time. It just really I wanna say a lot more people are coming out and admitting that they need more connection and less one night standish. I've seen that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Now, Sam, you call them hiccups, but they're basically the same mistakes people still make now, overpromising, undercommunicating, catching feelings, or assuming everyone's on the same page. Which of your hiccups from the book feel timeless, like the kind of lessons every non-monogamous couple learns the hard way?
Well, I want to keep it not in the realm of couples. Let's just talk about sexual activity between people. And then let me go back and set the stage a little bit too. I believe we were married probably about 3 years, and I said to my wife one day, hon, I'd like to do a threesome. What do you say about doing a threesome? And her response was, not something I'm interested in. If you want to do it, you do it. There came maybe months later, and subject came up again. I brought it up. What about a threesome? And her response was exactly the same. It's not something I want to do. If you want to do it, do it. And so after the third time, then it was like, okay, I got the message. It's clear she's not interested, but I'm free to do it. I tell you, we've been married 62 years, and people say, what's the secret? And she has kind of a stock answer, and it is pick your battles.
Yes.
And so at an early age, she picked her battle. I'm not saying, I don't know how it would have turned out had she said, no, no, no. And what are you talking about? You're bad for no, that wasn't her answer. But if she had said no and I stuck to that, I'm not sure how it would have all ended. But here we are 62 years later, and we've had a great marriage. And that pass that I got and her mentality of pick your battles, you know, it was just perfect.
Well, I
Yeah.
tell you what, if that was a battle that she chose not to fight, I'd love to see a battle that she chose to fight, because that must have been mega.
Now, well, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we had I believe, a strong bond. But on top of that, I'll go back a few steps. She came from a very religious family. They taught Sunday school. They were in the choir, so she had that typical reaction that women of her age at that time were going through. It was their grandmothers and their mothers saying, "Oh, sex, we don't talk about sex," or, that's to have babies. I mean, that's really the way it was for her mother and her grandmother and, the like. So when the sexual revolution hit and women had the freedom to go out and explore and not worry about the consequences of being pregnant, and et cetera, that set the stage. But going back to her upbringing, she was very vanilla. Now, 62 years later, I might have had a little impact there. Not a great deal, but a little impact there.
I feel like once we get past the age of like 40, 45, we're like, all right, we don't have any more fucks to give.
That's
So we're
right.
living our life.
Time to just be
It
unapologetic
is.
about it.
Yeah.
I will say that one of my favorite lines from the book is freedom without communication is just chaos wearing a smile. I want you to explain that, like what exactly this quote means to you.
Well, a lot of the book was talking about communication. And if you read the first story, there was a dire consequence, which was suicide. And that was because of bad communication. There happened to be a physician involved, and the physician really was, the word escapes me that I want right now, but he threw people under the bus. And again, that had dire consequences. And there was no communication or dialogue between the male and the female. So communication is very important. By the way, when I wrote the book, I noticed at the end of the first story that I said profits would be shared with the Suicide Hotline Society.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And
I
that
thought
was,
that was great.
yeah, yeah. That was the reason I started the book, was for that story. And that story was one I thought could be a Netflix or an Amazon Prime hour story. It had a humor in it, but it had dire consequences, and it had some lessons I thought people could learn.
It was a
But
great
then one
book.
story just sat by itself. It was like this tiny pea on an ironing board. And I said, well, let me beef it up. So I'll write 5 stories, and 5 went to 10, and 10 went to 12. And at 12, I said, that's it. The 12th story was always going to be the last story. So that was it. But in the middle of the night, one night, I woke up and I said, oh my God, I have another story to tell. In the morning, I said to my wife, hey, hon, I got another story. And she said, you can't. I said, what? She said, it's a 13th story. I said, yeah. She said, you can't. It's 12 or 14. You can't do
You
13.
can't do
I, it's 13. But I went back, I went back and sandwiched it in between 10 and 11. And so 12 was, again, that was, or 13 was always going to be that last story where Butch's wife discovers her own experiences.
Okay.
Wow. Well, during that era, flirting and sexual expression were acts of rebellion. And I know from the reading that I've done, that's always been the case. Swingers today, how can they bring back that same kind of playfulness instead of just getting stuck in like rules anxiety? We brought up rules earlier in the show, and I feel like a lot of us are just kind of stuck to a rule book. We get contacted all the time with people saying, I don't know how can we be swingers? Like, how do we do this? And to me, the answer is very simple. It's like you need to stop asking questions and just do. Like go out there and meet people, and so I have a bit of a fluidity to the way I like to do things. What's a good way to kind of bring that back, you think?
I don't think we can bring it back. There's no way to bring it back. And people do have their hookups nowadays, and unfortunately, they become emotional, and that's not what I'm about or the book is about. But I don't think there's a way to put the genie back in the bottle today. Likewise, I think it's cool that there's open expressions now about monogamy, non-monogamy. You can't watch TV for a week, probably different programs, without hearing about a swinger or swingers club, or about monogamy or non-monogamy. So
Yeah.
it's out there, and every study that I've seen in the last 5 years about sex, one of the top 3 topics is about non-monogamy. Now the new term is hot wifing. It's become the new term.
Yeah,
And of
that's right.
course, menage a trois is always up, in the top 3. And I hope you read about the corkscrew and how Butch discovered a new position called the corkscrew.
We did. Yes.
Try it sometime.
We're going to pause real quick.
Yeah,
Well, you need a third person.
I
So.
know.
there was a lot to learn from the book, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you didn't just write about it, but you lived it,
Hmm.
and I think that says a lot because in the world that we live in, there are a lot of people who want to talk about it, but never have really tried certain aspects of it. There was one person that we talked to that didn't even though they did what swingers do, they said, "Well, I'm not a part of that community. Like that's not my thing. Like
Yeah.
I just do it occasionally." I thought something was interesting though, Sam, and I wanted to ask you about it because right now, in I guess the sexual phase that we're living in, communication obviously is the number one thing that we always talk about, but the other thing is consent. Consent is very, very big. We talk about it when we go to clubs, when we go to house parties, this sort of thing. And there's been several times where consent has not been obtained and things have happened. As far as back then, I mean, obviously with its fluidity and, that sort of thing, was consent even a thing? I mean, obviously you'd have to get a yes. I mean, but was it what it is today?
Butch's encounters were all natural.
Yeah.
And so there was a fluidity to going from first base to home plate. So consent was not on the table because it was just a natural flow. If I were in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s today, it scared the hell out of me
Yeah.
to proceed with in a sexual encounter. Like if I met somebody and I thought things were going well and there was some communication or some feelings of sexuality between us, I don't know how I would approach it today. Well, I got to stop and ask, are we doing this? Is this okay with you?
It's
Yes.
nerve-wracking, Sam. It is nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes, I don't want to say it takes the fun out of it, but you have to do that today without
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And again, going back then, Butch had these encounters, and most of them, all of them practically, were brought to him. I mean,
Mhm.
the women came on to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Butch was
again, so the consent part was, I guess I had to consent to what they wanted to do.
I mean,
There,
I like that you're seeing the way it's all changing now. So it is very different. And you are right. We can't go back.
And
But
we've grown up
we
in with our feet in both fires
yeah.
because we grew up in Pris grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, and I grew up throughout the 80s. And of course, consent was not as big a deal in the 80s, and even
Yeah.
some of the early 90s. It was like, we grew up watching these movies, and it was like you just go up to the girl and you kiss her, and you go, you swoon, you get her to swoon, and then you take her to the bedroom, like there's no questions asked. And the idea was that women liked men who were take charge, and you just go over there and you just kiss her. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Now
um
it is not like that.
no, no.
I mean, I was raised very differently. That can't happen at all.
No, consent is very
I mean,
big
we're
for us
raising
now.
we're raising kids, and we tell our boy, we have boys, and I always, and we have daughters also, but I always tell my boys, it's like, if they say no, it's no, and that's just the way it is. Like, you can cry about it later.
Yeah, but so the hard part was, and going back to what you said, Sam, was, it's nerve-wracking. And so when we first started, we've been together 15 years. We started in the lifestyle as swingers 14 years ago. And I remember thinking, how am I supposed to do this? Like, I've always thought that, you go up to the girl and you grab her and you kiss her,
Oh,
and
you
that
got to
sort of
do
thing.
like Butch and
All of a
just stand
sudden,
there.
yeah, all of a sudden people are lecturing me and saying, look, you got to ask, man. Like, you can't touch, you got to ask.
Yeah.
And so then I had to figure out how to be able to ask for consent without putting a stop to all the fun vibe.
Yeah.
And that alone is just exhausting.
you were still a gentleman. I mean, you didn't go up and grab him by the pussy, did you?
No, I
No.
can't say I've never done that. No,
You
no.
were a gentleman.
I
He
was a
was.
gentleman.
He
I was
was.
very gentle. I was very gentle. Yeah, no, and so that's always been my I guess my nerve-wracking thing, was because we didn't really technically grow up in that era. And there's still some women out there in the lifestyle that I've
Yeah.
come across that have been like, "Don't ask, just do it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Really? Are you sure? Are you baiting me? Because I don't know."
No, no. Adam, if I hear just do it, I'm not going to ask her twice.
Oh man.
He does.
I do. Honestly, Sam, I've got such bad anxiety. I always feel like I'm going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And so I'm like, a woman will contact me now and she'll be like, "Hey, I think you're attractive. We should get together. Let's play." And I'm like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? Like, have you actually like looked at everything that I've said in this conversation? Like, are you sure you want to do this? And then I forget that a lot of times some women are just transactional, just like some men are transactional. They just
Yeah.
jump in there and get it going.
I don't ask for
You
permission.
talk about anxiety, and one of the I tried to have a lot of lessons in the book, and one of them, and they're subtle. This is probably an example of why I say they're subtle. There was an event where Butch was took his father to have some medical tests in Boston, and so staying in a hotel, and there was a woman at a bar. Butch was at the bar after he'd finished his dinner, and he could see her looking through the glass, looking over. So he buys her a drink, and then they start talking, and then they go up to his room. I would say Butch was probably about maybe 35 years old, and she was like 22 years old. Found out she was a telephone operator. Where do you see those today?
Right.
Said she was a part-time model, and so things started to progress in the room to where hitting the bed. They're both naked, hitting the bed, and which is not. It's not working. It just
Yeah.
isn't working. And so Butch's favorite maneuver, probably what made him infamous to get referrals, was he was good going down.
There you go.
Hey,
There's a lot of that still. So I have met
well,
plenty of Butches.
so it's like, okay, let's do the never fail move.
That's right.
And it ain't happening. So she got incensed. Am I not good enough? Am I not pretty enough? And then he tried to explain. He's got his father in the hospital. He's got a client back home who he's working on a very big case for. So he had real stress. He had two or three things going on in his life that were really stressful. And even in the heat of what normally would have been a great time, it wasn't working. So the message in the book is if a woman's reading the book and she ever encounters a guy who has a problem, don't think it's you. Don't put it on yourself.
Yeah, we actually
You
did
know,
a
the,
show about that
Yeah.
not too
really.
long ago because I had a situation like that. I am not, because of my anxiety. This is contradictory, but I have social anxiety, but I'm also an exhibitionist. And so we like to put on shows in front of other people. We'll go to the club and there's a row of beds in the center mass there, and we just get it on in front of everybody. But one day we got called over to one of the little cubbies there. There was a couple over there that they were having fun. They waved us over, and I didn't really know them very well. Pris had known them a little bit, and she was like, "Hey, come on, let's go, let's have fun." Okay, cool. Why not? We were just playing, so I'm good to go. I think I can just naturally slip into this other one. Um, it did not happen that way. And so once I started getting into it with this other woman, something happened and it just did not work. And so, I worked as hard as I could I gave myself 3 tries, 3 strikes, and then that's it. I'm out. And by the third
No, you're not in.
I was never in. And so by the third time, I was like, you know what, guys, y'all have a good time. I said, this is not going to work for me. It's just, I need more connection. And I think what it is I like to know that the person that I'm playing with wants me, because that's kind of what turns me on. And I've thought about this leading up to this interview, Sam. I don't know how well I would have been back then
No.
because of that. Like I don't know how well I could perform just on the fly and be like, hey, me, you in this room, let's get it. You know what I mean? Like that would be very difficult for me.
You got to go to the move. The
I'd
Butch
have to
move.
do the Butch move. Yeah. Immediately go, and that's a great move to go to.
It is.
But that was something that we had talked about because I had to let my lady friend know, and basically all women know, and my wife had to learn the hard way too, is when that happens, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about me.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't find you attractive. It's not that this isn't a hot scenario or anything like that. It's things in my own head. There's been times where she's told me in the morning for a quickie, she's like, "Hey, hurry up, we gotta go. I gotta go to work." And then I'm looking at the clock, and then I'm like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna work. Like, I can't. It's just too much pressure. I can't do it." Yeah, it's Sam. I'm a mess, man. I'm a mess. So I'm taking a lot from your book. I can tell you that. I'm trying
Yes.
to incorporate some, because I think, even though, like you said, a lot of the aspects of the way things were back then, it just can't make it out here. I think there are some aspects that can still make it out here. I believe that there are some women and some men that I have met that really kind of have that makeup, and I've always referred to it as the hippie vibe. You know what I mean? Like, everything is just everything is fluid, and we're in the moment, and what are we feeling right now? And this is the moment that we're having. Let's just go with it. And from a pothead standpoint, I dig that, man. I dig it. That sounds like a great idea to me. I'm kind of curious your makeup, Sam, as far as back then, because I only get this Sam to talk to. If you could paint a picture of the Sam from back then, like, what was this cock of the walk doing back then? Like, were you sporting the nice suits of the day, and you were, when your wife said no, you can go ahead and have your threesomes, like, did you already have go-tos? Did you have to work on that to find what you wanted?
No, there were no go-tos. The idea was go-to in my head, but I had nobody in mind. So then, when I took it after three times, okay, go do it. It was a natural thing the way it came about. um, in the career that Butch had, he was a salesman. He was many things. He's a Gemini, so he wore many hats. He was a coach. He was an athlete, but primarily he was a businessman. And so, yeah, dressed well. I always tried to look good. I'm 86 years old. I still, when I get dressed, I want to dress to please myself,
Yeah.
to look good going out. Yeah, I dressed kind of high style. Don't really know what the magic was, but I got involved in modeling, not because I wanted to. I did a favor for a woman which again is in the book, who had a modeling agency. And after the favor, she said, I'd like to have you do some modeling for me. And I said, I'm not interested. I don't have the time. We exchanged cards, and she called me in a couple of weeks and said, "Are you coming?" I said, "No, not really." She said, "Do me a favor." And I told her, I said, "I don't want to embarrass you. I don't have any training, etc." She said, "I need somebody for a bridal show this weekend. And so could you put a tux on and come and do it for her?" I said, "Okay, I'll do that for you." That was fun. So that broke the barrier. So I did some modeling for several years. And then, as a result of the modeling, I was asked to judge beauty pageants, and I got involved in judging beauty pageants. So that led to some exploration and travel. A lot of Butch's adventures, I mean, almost all of them were involved through traveling. But I, what was it? I don't know. Did I try and perfect whatever it was? No, it just, you know,
Just happened.
to this day, I don't know.
Wow. I think you did amazing. So,
Yeah, and you're a sharp-looking guy. When you say that you were a
yeah,
model, I could see that. I
I
could
could
see you
see that.
modeling right now, man. You look great in what you're wearing.
Thanks.
I definitely couldn't pull off a turtleneck because I've tried, and I don't know. I think I have a double chin, and so something happens, and
Looks great on you.
yeah, you look fantastic.
Thanks. And I said I'm 86. My wife is 83. We work out three times a week. We work out with a personal trainer.
That's
So,
awesome.
we try. We played tennis. Now she has some macular degeneration, so we're we went to the dark side. We're trying to play pickleball.
Oh, you doing? We went to Seattle. Did you know that that is the pickleball?
That's
That's
where
where it
it's
started.
started.
That's where it started. No.
Seattle. Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
museum and everything. It was so weird, but I
Yeah.
was like, I thought pickleball was just a fake a fake game that someone just invented. Like,
Well,
well,
I mean, all games
I
are.
mean, you know what I mean. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying.
It's yeah, it's fun, no question about it. When I'm talking about our lifestyle, we do date night every Saturday night.
Really?
So before COVID, we would do date night. So date night was going out, having dinner, going to a movie. It had to be sexually oriented or a rom-com, no violence. And then we go to a lounge that was close to home, and we'd have a couple pops, get to meet a lot of nice people, and get home and finish date night with sex. COVID hit, and a couple of weeks went by, and it was like, hey, hon, we're not doing date night. We got to fix this. So we started making dinner at home, then turn on Netflix, Amazon Prime, find some sexual content. There's tons of it. And guys, I hope one day you're going to be watching Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu.
I would love
But
that.
so halfway through whatever we're watching, I'll pause it and I'll make margaritas. And then again, when it's over, jump in bed and we'll have sex. And, it's
That's
great.
so healthy, man.
Sex
So
is
healthy.
absolutely. You know the advantages of sex. I mean,
I
it can
mean,
help stress, it can help relieve stress, help
yeah.
Yes.
relieve pain, burns calories, improves sleep. I sleep like a baby Saturday night, I want to tell you, until Sunday morning.
Man, yeah, I hibernate. It's funny that you say that the date. We've attempted to do that several times, and we were pretty good at it for a while there. When we started this podcast, I got to say the podcast is all consuming, and it's one of those things where it's like I threw myself into it, and it takes up so much of my time and this and that, and then we're traveling to do different events and this and that, and we have sat back and gone, when are we doing date night? Like, when? And so, like, this past weekend, we were at a hotel takeover where they basically, it's the swingers take over the entire hotel. From the moment you walk in, they have the doors kind of shaded, closed off. People are walking around naked and lingerie. You get a room, you're there for the entire weekend, and there's a bunch of festivities that are going downstairs. That was our opportunity to basically have a love fest and have fun with every single person. We were there to do a live podcast on a Saturday, and so when we checked in Friday, people already knew who we were. We could have had a lot of fun. You know what we did? We stayed in the room the entire weekend, and we
No,
literally just she
you,
stayed in my arms. We watched TV, and that was our
okay, two of you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was great. That was great. That was
That was
great.
great. And we have a house full of children, so it's anytime we can get it in, our quiet time, our
Yeah.
alone time, we make the best of it.
I initially felt bad about it because I was like, how often are we here at a hotel takeover in this kind of situation? But at the same time, I was like, I need this, and I feel like she needs this too. And
Yeah.
our relationship has always been our number one priority over everything. And I think that's really something that we try to bring up in almost every show besides communication, is that you need to really put everything you have into your relationship.
You could have looked at it afterwards and said, geez, we spent all that money when we could have done this at home. But it wasn't home. It was
It wasn't.
a new feeling, a new surroundings,
And
and
I'll
you
take it
needed
to the
that.
next I'll take it to the next level, Sam. We didn't have to pay for it.
Great. It was even
We
better.
were part of the entertainment, so it worked out. So yeah, no, it was really great, and it was a great event. We got to really see some cool stuff and be around a lot of great people. But
Yeah.
when it came down to it, yeah, we stayed in the room. We ate our fast food, junk food. We ended the night with sex, and we slept
It was
amazingly.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I love
What state do you guys live in?
We're in
Texas.
Texas. Yeah.
In Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever been to Fantasy Fest in Florida, Key West, Florida?
No,
And no, I've heard of it.
I have not.
I've heard of it. I've never been. We've never been though. We're starting to do some traveling, so
Yeah, 2020. Is that something that we should look into? Yeah, you got that smile on
Well,
your face.
we did Fantasy Fest probably 9 years. So you think I can recommend it?
Okay.
Well, now I'm going to get on the computer. I'm going to
Oh,
find
we're
out.
gonna
Yeah.
have to look at it.
Yeah.
But then if you put it on your wish list and you're going to go, you got to talk to me before you go.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah,
deal.
definitely.
We're gonna try and get this thing linked up. We're gonna have you back on the show, Sam,
Yes.
so we can talk about
Yeah.
it. Well, with that, I appreciate you, Sam. I appreciate you joining us for the show.
I love the conversations like this because it's wild realizing how much of what we call modern really started decades ago. And of course, that's the wonderful book right there.
That's right. Hey, we got it right here too.
Yep.
SamLFeldman.com.
There you go.
SamLFeldman.com. Sam's book, Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances, nails that mix of sexy, funny, and reflective. It's like reading the origin story of everything we've talked about on Beyond Monogamy.
Yeah. And if you haven't checked it out, go grab yourself a copy. We'll have the link up on our website. So
yes, and our show notes, everything will be listed there. Speaking of which, go to www.beyond-monogamy.com for all our episodes, blogs, merch, and so much more, including our guest bio of our friend Sam here. And that's going to have all of his book information there as well.
Great. And don't forget to drop your own wild and hilarious lifestyle stories in the Beyond Monogamy confessional. You can stay anonymous and we might feature it in our upcoming episode.
That's right. I actually have another quickie episode where we're going to have a couple.
Nice.
So with that, don't forget to hit our events tab. 2026 is already filling up with live shows, meet and greets, and trips. We're going to be doing Naughty Nolans in the summertime. And now, Sam, you just gave us another one to scope out. So we're going to have to bring that. We're going to
be going to Florida.
That's right.
The last 10 days of October.
Last 10 days of October.
Okay.
We got it down. We got it down. So with that, hopefully everybody on the podcast is going to hang out with us. And if they're out there, they may be able to hang out with us in person.
Yeah.
So thank you all for listening. We appreciate you all. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.